Woo! Yeah! We did it! Another one! Woohoo! Hello, world. Welcome to For Fork's Sake Live. Female bodies in Hollywood. Dawn, can you believe it? We've been doing this for a whole year, Dawn.
I know, right?
We did it.
Unbelievable.
1 year.
1 year as of today.
Wow.
Yes.
So,
Congrats.
holy cow. I'm gonna
Holy
adjust
cow.
that a little bit. There we go.
So to get us started, as usual, we're just going to introduce ourselves, share a little bit about what we're eating. I'll start. My name is Danny Bryant. I am in the city of Chicago, Illinois. I am the founder of Knife and Fork, which is a female-focused theater company that does a lot of work about food and body politics. For dinner this evening, I'm having something called the Soft Taco Fiesta Bowl.
Nice.
Delightful. I also have some grapes and what all 30-year-old something women love. That's me. Who's next?
But do you call it LaCroix or do you call it La Croix?
Okay, see, I was going to call it La Croix, but this guy I was going on a date with was like, that's not what it's called. It's called LaCroix. And so I was like, okay.
Okay.
But I don't know what's right.
LaCroix.
LaCroix. How about that's much funnier.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And I am Dawn or Sam Alden, and I am in Los Angeles, and I came here about 6 years ago from Chicago, and have been, and there in Chicago I did a lot of work with all-female theater companies and did a lot of work creating feminist work and female-focused work on stage, and moved out to here to LA with the firm intention of doing the same for the film world. So I've been battling the great beast of gender prejudice out here as best I can. We'll talk more about that anon.
Oh, yes.
So, tonight, I am having, and I apologize to all the cute little fluffy lambs out there, but I tried cooking lamb for the first time. I had a crock pot recipe that I wanted to try, and it's like lamb and sweet potato stew, and oh, it is so good. So very good. So, sorry, little lambs, I love you alive, but I love you even more in my stew. And then because I'm PMSing like a son of a gun, dark chocolate.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. Who's up?
I'll go then. All right. So, hey. I'm Andy Osho. I'm a comedian, actress, and filmmaker. If you can't guess from the accent, I'm from the UK. So, but I've been living in Los Angeles for just over 2 years now. So just doing my thing, doing my hustle. And I am eating a, let me see if I can hold it up high enough, black bean stew. Looks like gruel. Looks like I've been a bad child, but it's actually really nice. But I made a black bean stew, which is like one of my favorite things. I'm considering going vegan. I'm still eating meat, but I'm considering it.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is my first few steps into it. So it's going to be beans with every meal then, is the conversation I'm in my head at the moment.
There you go. There you go. Leah, you want to go?
Sure. I'm Leah Savoli. I'm an actress and a producer and a host in Los Angeles. I've been here for almost 16 years now, and I'm originally from Philly. I'm pretty much bi-coastal, though, these days. I go back and forth a lot. And so I've got a bunch of yummy Trader Joe's food that I put into bowls to be fancy, so you guys might think I cooked my own food. But this is the kale and cauliflower salad, which I poured into a bowl. And then I've got the chicken salad because I can't go to Trader Joe's and not get the chicken salad. I will probably eat the entire package during this episode. And I got myself some fancy organic tea and lemonade, also from Trader Joe's.
Very fancy.
Very nice. Very nice.
Cheers.
Yay. Catsy, what do you got?
Oh, it's my turn. I don't have anything like y'all. My name is Katsy Chappelle. I live out here in Los Angeles, as you can see by daylight. We still got daylight, these 4. Originally from Oklahoma. Yep, I'm an Okie, but not from Muskogee, more Pawhuska, where, yeah, Pawhuska. They did Osage County, didn't put a black person in it, and they're full. Anyways, but I'm over it. Really? They had one little Indian. Oklahoma is all about the Indian, but they had one, and it was played by Mexican. Hello, Hollywood. We need to talk. So yeah. I'm an actress. I'm a stand-up. I'm a green comic. Instead of working for, I don't do blue jokes. I do green jokes. I'm very much into leaving less of my carbon print, and then I make stuff, and then jokes come from the stuff that I make. Like I crafted up a Capri Sun jacket, and the jokes came after I made the jacket and wore it, and people started laughing at me. You know what? Yeah, right, because I'm doing my part. I drank all those Capri Suns myself. Yeah, I found out they go good with gin, so yeah. I am here this afternoon. It's not quite dinner, but I want to participate, and then when I'm supposed to snack. When I'm told to snack, I will snack. So I tried to do the bowl thing too, so here's my bowl. I got 6 grapes hanging out, and they're probably gonna be raisins by the time I get to them. I have some yogurt, and this is the bomb diggity yogurt, man. I got it at the 99-cent store. 99. Go to the 99-cent store. It's 12 grams of sugar, where most cups of yogurt have like 25, 26, 30. Yeah. And look at that, it's creamy. I don't know whether to eat it or put it on my face as a facial. It just is yummy. Right.
Have you tried it yet?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I have. Let me show you.
No, that's a great sugar count.
How's that for a yogurt commercial? Right. And then I'm finishing up. This is my favorite popcorn from Trader Joe's. I lost 125 pounds, and this stuff kept me from ending up on a clock tower shooting at people when I got hungry. I'd reach in the back seat and grab a bag of this, and I didn't care if I was caught on the 405 freeway because I could snack and eat. This helped me keep the weight going down. And I'm still scared. Every corner I go around, I'm afraid my butt's just waiting to hop back on. I am so afraid.
Did you say you just lost 125 pounds? Is that what you just said?
No, yes, I did lose that, but not just. I wouldn't be here right now. No, I lost it in 2003 to 2005, but that's why I'm scared. Every time I go for a piece of chocolate cake, and I'm sorry, I love me. You think that chocolate bar, I have to eat chocolate cake alone, just that first bite because of the sounds I make. You know them sounds. You know those sounds we make when, bone, chicken, bone, bone. It's them kind of sounds. So yes, I've kept the weight off. Let me show you a little bit. There's my stuff. There you go. Except I got this playground right here. Look at that. What is that going on right there?
It's a mark of your success.
Is it what now?
It's a mark of your success.
Child, them is wings. On a rainy day, a windy day, I take off. I'm flying. So that's it. I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome, all of you. So thrilled you're here. Dawn, what questions do you got today?
Well, I wanted to start off by having Leah tell us a little bit about this fabulous group that she started called All Shapes and Sizes Welcome. And it is completely on topic for what we're talking about today because it's about different body sizes and shapes in Hollywood and how we don't see them and we don't have fair representation of the entire breadth of humanity on screen. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. All Shapes and Sizes Welcome is something I created about 3 years ago. And it came through a very personal channel. I realized all my life I have not really been happy with my body, regardless of whether I was a size 3 or a size 16 that like I currently am right now. And I had been up and down, and throughout the course of my life, I had, lost 50 pounds on Jenny Craig, lost this, lost that, up and down. And about 5 years ago, I was probably in the best shape of my life. I was hiking every day. I was doing Pilates. I was roller skating. I was doing the Isagenix nutritional cleansing program. And I hit a big depression, and I just started eating and eating and eating and eating and eating, probably about 2,000-3,000 calories a day. And as you do such, it was almost like a game in my mind of like how long would it take before the pounds on the scale started showing up. And so I put on about 75 pounds in the course of about four or 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what I realized was rather than go straight to some sort of crazy detox or cleanse, I realized that there was a deeper issue here, and that deeper issue was self-love, because I was looking at photos of myself on red carpets at a size 3 and a size 5 and being able to go, wow, you looked beautiful, but also being able to remember that at the time I was like, oh, you look fat, so I realized that, okay, you know what, I need to figure out a way to love myself right here at 200 pounds and then go from there. And so I was doing it, and I was on that self-love journey, and I was feeling good. And what happened one day was I posted a selfie of myself on Facebook. I was feeling good. I was in Vegas with one of my girlfriends. We were going to a rock concert, and it wasn't your typical selfie that I'm great at the angles. It was literally like a waist-up shot because I was feeling good. I had jeans and a T-shirt on. And I posted it on Facebook, and this man that I hadn't seen in years, who had acted on a television show with many years ago, left a comment, and he said, Leah, I've seen you look better.
Wow.
Wow.
Right? And I said to him, well, you know what? Rather than flip out, I said, you know what? The last time you saw me, I had just done the Master Cleanse for 40 days. I was probably malnourished and lacking nutrition, and my waist was a size 23, which for someone who's 5'7" might be a little too small. Now my friends took care of the rest of the comments, and I deleted that gentleman instantly. But what happened was within the next 48 hours, I came up with the idea of All Shapes and Sizes Welcome. And I reached out to one of my best friends, Helena Santos, who runs an online magazine called MsInTheBiz.com. And I ran the idea by her, and she said, yeah. And so we've been doing this for 3 years now. We've spoken at Comic-Con, WonderCon, Kamikaze, Ventura Pop Thing, Boston, the F-Word event, and it's now a rotating panel of women. I have about 10 or 15 women now that have participated, everything from top models to people who sit on the board of eating disorders in Washington, D.C., to magazine editors, to photographers, to cosplayers. And some of these ladies have never had an eating disorder or a weight issue. They have their own experience, though, whether it be prejudice, whether it be racism, whether it be sexism, and we all just talk about how to be the change in Hollywood, which is really more female writers, more female directors, more female producers, and being aware of where we're putting our advertising dollars. So now we have a website, allshapesandsizeswelcome.com. We have a Facebook page, and thank you. And we've gotten some really great feedback, and people really welcoming us to speak about it. So I'm really happy that we've been received well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we are, if you go to our Facebook page, we're friends with All Shapes and Sizes Welcome. They have a Facebook page. You can like them on Facebook. They have a Twitter feed, all that good stuff. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Do you have a Twitter feed?
We don't really have a Twitter page, but we do use the hashtag All Shapes and Sizes. So, if you click on, maybe it's something I need to start. At first it was just a Facebook page. Then I'm being forced to make a website. Now I'm being forced to make a Twitter page.
Right. Next you're going to have an Instagram account, and then a Tumblr.
Oh my God, and a YouTube channel.
Full-time job.
Aww.
Well, that is so cool. And I also wanted to get Andy to just weigh in, because Andy, as you can hear, is from the UK. And I have always been really curious to hear, since you've been here for 2 years, growing up in a different country and coming from the entertainment scene in London, what struck you when you came to LA as a woman in a female body? What did you find, like, how were you received?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think about that on a day-to-day basis. I think that the time that it's become most obvious to me is when I'm looking at casting and deciding, you know, your type and all the rest of it. And I had a really interesting conversation with somebody, Dawn, that you and I both know, Martin. And I was basically up for a role where I was to play a lawyer. I often play like doctors, lawyers, nurses, those types of, you know, professions. And but this particular lawyer becomes a love interest for the main character, who's a white guy. And I was arguing with Martin that I wouldn't be right for the role. They had specified a kind of Pam Grier type woman. And I said, I think it's really, I didn't even really want to go to the audition. And I said to Martin, women like me don't end up in roles like that. And he's like, oh, you know, you can't limit yourself and all the rest of it. But I said, I'm not limiting myself, I'm being realistic. When have you ever seen a woman who looks like me in a role like that? You know, they usually go for a lighter skinned, slimmer woman. I'm, you know, a good-sized woman, you know. And so and it really sort of got me thinking about really what's possible for me in terms of, you know, perceptions of body image and all the rest of it. Because obviously, in the real world, yeah, it could happen that a woman like me is a love interest of somebody like that. But in terms of how the TV and film industry still sees it, it's not necessarily possible. Not just about skin color, tone, whatever, but also about size as well. I think it's almost like there's an addition to the story if the woman doesn't fit an archetype that's already been established. Like, if the woman is bigger, you just think, oh, well, what are they trying to say? There must be something wrong with her, or there's some other part of the story that they haven't told us, which is why they haven't used a normal-looking woman kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it was a really interesting conversation. It sort of gets depressing when you really sort of drill down into it. But then obviously there's hope because there's people like Viola Davis. But look how long she's been in the industry and how long she's had to be around to be seen as a person other than the lawyer, the nurse, the doctor, the distraught single mother. You know, she's had to really fight to sort of break out of those roles and be given like amazing opportunities like How to Get Away with Murder. And that's like after a 20-odd year career. So I don't know if that answers your question. I suppose the other thing I noticed as well is that coming from the UK, like obviously we've got a culture where we tend to idolize slender people more than bigger people. But here it just felt like a bit more extreme. So there's a lot. I see really slim people, a lot of them here, particularly in LA, particularly in Hollywood. It's not that we don't have those back home, but yeah, it was just more prominent here, let's say. But then I was also heartened to see, there's normal women too. Because the perception back home is that, right, you're going to be wall-to-wall stick insects. It's going to be like being in the middle of a dead forest. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be just you, a normal-sized woman, in all these like skinny trees. And it wasn't. There's normal women here. So that's really heartening to see. The journey is getting those women on screen.
Well, I want to follow up on that kind of point for all of you who have like made the choice to move to LA. I mean, regardless of where you were in the country, there's this like Hollywood has this reputation and this expectation. And when making the choice to even move to Hollywood, was that ever in the back of your mind of kind of how your sense of self would be challenged, or were you just going to pursue that dream? Because I'll be honest, like that is something that when you live in Chicago after several years, many people decide to make the move. Like there's this like exodus to LA. And that's a reason that I have personally chosen not to go, is because I don't think my body would be as accepted, and that I would just kind of not be happy with the work I was offered. Because I'm used to being offered the roles of brothel whores and witches, evil queens, and brothel whores.
Perfect.
I don't think I'm really into that. So what do you guys think about that? The expectation of Hollywood versus you making the decision to go. Right. Anybody can answer.
I always used, I came out to be a comic. There were no comedy clubs in Oklahoma, Tulsa. one in Oklahoma City. They weren't supported, so I came out here to do stand-up, and I just had to make a decision between East Coast and West Coast, and the only reason I chose West Coast was I thought if I've ever got to live in my car or if I'm ever homeless, that was the deciding factor. And it did come true at one point. I did live in my car, had a 40-hour-a-week job, and still something came up, and I moved out and put everything in storage, and I went to work every day, and I found a new street to sleep on every night in my car for a while. And built character and whatnot, but I came out to do stand-up. And what I found out growing up as a kid, if I made people laugh, they weren't looking at me. I was thin for a long time, but when I started to blow up, the jokes, the fat jokes and stuff didn't show up as much when I was making people roll over in laughter. So I came out here and did that. And I will tell you that some jokes got me, my humor got me parts, but there were parts I lost even after. Well, let me back up and tell you that I used my weight to my advantage and became a full-figure model through the 90s. I modeled calendars, I modeled swimsuits. I was a size 22, a nickel shy of 300 pounds at 5'7". That's a bit, but it was, it was I was a big woman, I like big butts and I cannot lie. That was me. That was me. And I walked like that too. I used it to my advantage, and I became a full-figure model with Mary Webb Davis agency, did a lot of runway modeling, a lot of print, and what I realized is that that's a lot of weight to carry around, and as heavy as I was, my health was perfect. I mean, my cholesterol was lower than my thin friends. All my blood work was great. But I just thought about, okay, how's it going to be 10, 20 years from now? And that's what started me on the road to losing the weight, because our country is overrun with the diet that we can't even control because of the GMOs and the food that the government makes us eat. They won't let us have raw milk. That's not good for us. Where it is good for us, they want us to drink the 2%, which changes genes in your body and makes kids fat and makes them mature faster and stuff. We don't have any control over this stuff. So I decided I needed to get this weight off before I got to the point of adult onset diabetes. And I did it. I'm healthy. I'm not thin. I got, I look like a woman supposed to look. These women with the thigh gap make me want to slap a knot upside their heads. You have seen that, haven't you? Where they got like 3 or 4 inches of gap between when a woman's crossing the street and you can see the "Don't Walk" sign through her legs. That's too thin. That is thigh gap, and she needs to sit down and have a sandwich. There needs to be some, we need to look curvy and like, God meant us to look. We ain't supposed to look like no dude from behind. Anyway,
I had a thigh gap once, but I think it sort of fell down to my knees. And I'm happy with it there, really.
Mine tried to climb up funicularly to where it's footed, but mine are at my knees too, so we're sisters in that aspect. I forget where we're going, but yeah, I've lost it and I'm keeping it up, and I'm still scared every day of it coming back on and making me ill. That's I would be big, now if I didn't think it would lead to, cankles and sickness that you can get as you age. So that's why it's off. And I I had to change lifestyle where I would eat an entire cake alone. I was on the road a lot. I did college circuit for a decade, colleges 9 months of the year. When you get done, I'm not a comic who drank or did drugs, so I would go hit the Waffle House. I would go hit these Denny's and stuff, and you put on weight. Yeah. And it's all greasy food, and it just was, my dimples had pools in them. It was just not a good thing. So now I've got the weight off, and you do find me eating stuff like this. This ain't just for this show. I mean, I go into Trader Joe's and Fresh and Easy, who sell the sea salt. That's all that's on here. I don't want to get that.
That looks good.
Cheese.
I know. You want it.
And you know what else? I pop my own popcorn too. I keep a bag in the freezer, take it out, put 1/4 of a cup in a brown bag, roll it over, tape it, put it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and you got your own popcorn. You can salt it and put herbs or whatever else you want on it. And yeah, don't eat those fakey popcorns that are folded over in the envelope. They're like Twinkies. Shelf life of a gazillion years, and they got so many chemicals in them. No, don't do it. Call me. I'll show you how to eat some popcorn.
I love it, Dawn. Dawn, what about you? Because you came from Chicago, so I'm curious. I really want to know about the expectation versus reality.
It's I kind of had a feeling of what I was going to experience out here, but I am still surprised at how much more intense it was than I thought. Now, when I came out here, I was also 20 pounds lighter than I am now. I talked about this on the show a little bit before. I lost my mom about 2.5 years ago, and for a year after her death, I didn't really care about anything, so I just ate. And I'm now carrying what I call my grief weight. And so things are actually a little bit different for me now that I'm just, 20 pounds heavier makes all the difference. I'm certainly no longer leading lady material, even if I was, but I'm too old for that anyway. So I've got 2 strikes against me. And the limiting factors of what women can look like are in all categories. It's not just your weight, it's your skin color, it's your age, whether or not you fit a particular brand. Like Andy was saying earlier, like there's this shorthand in Hollywood, and if you want a woman for this particular role, you're only going to pick a woman that fits the sort of stereotype of that role, because that way you're trimming the possibility of having any sort of discussion about that woman other than her fulfilling that need that the plot needs to have her fulfill, which is always, well, not always, but almost always, to support the husband or father or brother or strong leading man type. And so you don't want the woman to distract the audience too much. She just needs to be there sort of looking nondescript so she can support the male's journey. And I do
think it's changing, though. I really do. I just want to jump in here because
go ahead.
I'm 40 years old and I'm 200 pounds, and I know I'm doing executive produce a movie where I'm going to be the lead, because these days I'm coming in as a producer as well. I have a crowdfunding company that I run on the side. I've helped raise $2 million in the past 2 years for independent projects, and so now instead of just knocking on the door with a headshot in my hand, I'm also knocking on the door as a producer and as somebody who can raise the funds. So this particular project I've been attached to for years, and I was a supporting role, and the project hasn't gotten made yet, and so I actually had a meeting with the author and the screenplay writer the other day and said, look, I want to come in and executive produce this, but I want one of the lead roles. And they were fine with that. I think as far as expectations, and you mentioned only being the brothel whore, the best role that I've ever played in my life so far was a brothel whore. I was on Deadwood on HBO for all 3 seasons.
I love it. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Deadwood was the most amazing experience of my life to date, and the breakdowns actually said, we are looking for real women with no fake boobs, no implants, no hair dye, and some curves. And I was like, what? I was like, wait, what? I'm like, well, that sounds like exactly like me, and it was an amazing experience. Now I do gotta say, and I've blogged about this over the years in my journey to self-love and weight loss and whatnot, is that while on Deadwood, even though I was hired for my curves, that's when I was detoxing and cleansing more than I ever had in my life, and got the smallest, because the reality of the situation was the principal actresses were all super, super tiny women. even in the Old West. So yes, and I think we have to be a part of that change. We have to be the ones writing the roles that have curves. We have to be writing the roles that have color. We have to be writing the roles that are all ages. And I think lately in my conversations, the word diversity has come up a lot, but I don't think it's diversity. I think it's normalization. If you walk outside your door, you see women of all shapes, sizes, color, ages, heights, hair colors, eye colors. That's normal. That's not diverse. That's normal. And that's what I think we need Hollywood to recognize is it has been this idealized fantasy of like, oh, this is diverse. No, we are normal. We are a huge planet of unique individuals, and more, the more we speak up, the more we become producers, the more we create our own change, Hollywood will have to follow. They have to. They just have to.
Yeah. 2 points. First of all, going back to what Andy said about Viola Davis, and getting that fantastic, well-written show, How to Get Away with Murder, that wouldn't have happened without Shonda Rhimes. If she wasn't in the position where she could create that show for such a role that Viola Davis could bring to life with such vibrancy. So yes, this whole idea of we've got to make more space for other women, and women of every shape and size and color and ethnicity and nationality and all that sort of thing. And then I'm just going to say something real quick, because I know a couple of women that could not put a pound on if they tried. And I just wanted to say that skinny women are women too, because that's
really like body autonomy, right? I mean, it's about pushing for for it to be about like the talent, right? Who's the best for it, and the body is like comes second. I mean, that's really what I would love to see.
We don't want to
go ahead.
either. Like, we have to be proud of all of our bodies, and fat shaming, skinny shaming, like, we are who we are, and it's up to us to love ourselves and love each other.
Yeah. Andy, do you self-produce stuff as well, or I know you do stand-up.
Yeah, I have done, and I think it's essentially what we're all saying is that I think women need to, well, there's 2 things. Women need to, as Dawn said, be in a place to make more space for the normalization, I suppose, of all types of women on screen. But also there's an education process in terms of like how Hollywood views women and how Hollywood represents. That might be a sort of more established white male perspective. That needs educating as well, to say you're not going to hurt your film by making the lead character or making that supporting character, that doctor or whoever. You could make it a woman. It's not going to hurt your film. It might actually add an interesting layer to it rather than damaging the story that you think you're trying to tell. So I do as well, and I think it's not so much just out of wanting to see more women such as myself on screen, but it's also just a passion that I have anyways. But I'm really into like intelligent sci-fi, and I am currently sort of just toying with an idea in my head that the lead character is a woman, is a black woman, but just because the story is not about her race at all, same as Scandal is not about Kerry Washington's character's race. It's really just a woman who's in love with the president. That's her quandary, not a black woman in love with a white woman or whatever. And that's what I want to do because that's what I think is the next stage of diversity, or whatever term you want to use, is it starts by, having this sort of a positive, what do you call it, affirmative action type of attitude, where you have to have quotas and numbers and presenteeism sort of thing. But then after a while, diversity should just be about people playing a role just because. Yeah. That person happens to be a plus-size person just because. That person happens to be a black woman just because. And their race or their size or their cultural background has nothing to do with it. They've just cast as wide as society is. That's the next step. But we have to go through this sort of awkward stage of saying, you have to have a black person, you have to have a Latina, you have to have a this, you have to have a that. But then it's like having Black History Month. I'm looking forward to the day when we just say history year, like there's no distinction, because at the end of the day, black history is everybody's history anyways. So it's sort of patronizing to distinguish, and having to do the diversity thing is almost patronizing in a way, but it's a necessary step to get to the place where people truly are being colorblind in their casting, or, age blind or whatever, and they're just being, who's the right person for this role? Who would be interesting in this role? Who's maybe a little bit outside of what people would expect? What layers would this changing the ethnicity or the gender or whatever of this character bring to the role. That's what's really interesting.
Yep.
What I hear kind of us talking about are like the two tracks of like, yes, we would like to see a variety of women on screen, but also more directors and producers and writers and screenwriters. So could you guys talk a little bit about the behind the scenes experience of being a woman in Hollywood? It's like a little different from female bodies in Hollywood, but I'm curious about that just because like I'm reading right now how Jill Soloway created Transparent just like 2 days ago. She called for a call to action, right, for the female voice in filmmaking. So I'm curious, like behind the scenes as a woman in Hollywood, what's that like?
Well, for me, I've not been here very long, so my answer will probably be quite brief. It feels as though it's the same as in the UK, where there aren't as many women working in most of the roles. Like your casting directors and stuff like that, they're going to, and production coordinators, things like that. More communication roles, they tend to be women, but still, like, never worked with a woman DP, only worked with a black DP once. It was a guy. Only ever had a black woman director once. Never, I don't think I've ever worked with a female director. So it still feels like there's a long way to go, but it feels like it's getting better, especially as women are sort of taking the reins more, and there's much more of a conversation about it. This feels like front and center now, whereas before it was just like, oh, the women are talking again. Oh, no. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like, no, this isn't going away. When you get Patricia Arquette mentioning it at the Oscars, you know this shit isn't going away, and getting a rousing round of applause from Meryl Streep, you think she's got it made, and she's just going, fuck yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, so obviously this conversation's not going away.
There is something there too. I've been booked in roles by female directors, and I didn't even think about it at the time, but walking into a room when you're reading for casting and producers and you see a large amount of the people sitting on that couch are female, I guess in some levels it kind of put me at ease, because those have been the movies and the shows that I have booked, I mean, even before I got home. And I don't know. Maybe I make it harder for myself when I'm going up into casting and it's a room full of guys. But I am happy for every female that gets in there, and especially not only my gender but my ethnicity. And we don't even say it. It's a silent thing. It's kind of like walking down the street. You white people don't know this, but we make another black person like, hey, how are you? How are you? All right. And nothing loud or like, we're glad to be alive on the planet in this day and age, having come as far as the race has come. And I think females in production, be in front of the camera and behind the camera, as far as age-wise, it's getting better. It's super slow. It's glue drying slow, but it is happening slowly but surely.
There's a wonderful organization out here called the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media, and their gig is that they have been commissioning a bunch of different studies to actually take a look at the representation of women both behind and in front of the camera. They're specifically looking at G and PG-13 movies because her thrust is specifically looking at the messages that we're sending to our daughters. But they've done a bunch of studies because when Gina Davis initially was going to studio heads and saying, you know, as an actress in Hollywood, saying, you know, I noticed that that there isn't as much representation of women in these films, and the studio heads would say to her, "Oh, yes, that was true, but it's fixed now. That we're better now." And she thought, well, okay. And then she thought, but how do we know? How do we know? How do we prove that? So she commissioned a bunch of studies, and a lot of them showed that, in fact, nothing had changed since the 30s. So she now has this data that she can then go back into these offices that she can get into because she's Gina Davis, and sit down with studio heads and say, well, actually, no, it hasn't gotten better. And she says, you know, when she does this, their jaws, of course, drop to the floor because there is this perception that it is better now, I think, because we're talking about it more, which is definitely the first step.
Mhm.
But the question that she's trying to answer is, can we actually move the needle? So
Yeah, and people like Gina Davis and Jill Soloway, Jill Soloway just took the ACLU, I believe. There's I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but there's a motion that they've started. I don't know if it's a court case or whatnot, but it is about, you know, the lack of women and directors in particular. So being a part of Ms. in the Biz, it's an all-female community. It's 180 female bloggers writing for women, about women, from everyone from actors to makeup artists to photographers to directors. So I am surrounded by independent women filmmakers. And there's a woman named Destry Martini who just launched the directorslist.com, and it's all women directors. And, you know, she started it with the idea of if somebody's out there going, oh, I don't know, there's not a whole lot of female directors out there. Well, I believe her list has like 500 people on it at this point. On Ms. in the Biz, we have a database called Hire a Ms. It's free to submit. It's free to use it. And it's every part of the entertainment industry you can think of. Just go submit your name and what you do. So if someone is looking for a female editor, we have them. If someone is looking for a female DP, we have them. So I'm like really involved in these hardcore. I just produced a film called Nowhere Land. It's a female writer, director, executive producer. You know, everything I'm involved in is female heavy these days.
Awesome.
So yeah, so you know, but you know, yeah, this, like you said, this is how the change happens. So like if you look at the statistics, sure, it is still low, but there are trailblazers out there, and you know, and I want to be one of them. I want to continue on this path to being one of them, so that yeah, our daughters don't, you know, it might be too late for our daughters, you know, but maybe their daughters, you know, where this is no longer a topic, just like you said about Black History Month, that this is no longer a topic. It just is, you know.
Yeah. I think the difficulty comes. I have so many stories. So many stories, but I think it's like there's the perception that I get because you know, I don't get into a lot of the high-powered rooms. I'm kind of a grunt actress, producer, whatever, you know, however many hats I'm wearing at the time. It's like there are two Hollywoods right now. And the Hollywood that's making new media projects with their Canon 5D or their iPhone or whatever, and that are getting together in small groups of film collectives, they're making work, and they're making incredible work with incredibly diverse voices and with non-traditional stories being told, and it's all out there on the internet. You know, you can log in from anywhere in the world, and you can watch some amazing content that you will never see on NBC, ABC, CBS, whatever. But there's this other Hollywood that we haven't gotten to yet, and it's the Hollywood of the big studios where films have budgets in the millions and the billions, and that is still, it seems, from the stories that I've heard, that is still firmly entrenched in this older
boys club.
You can say it,
mind.
The thing is with that, I mean, I think, Dawn, I think you're right, but I think that I think you have to consider those to be more like tankers, like they've got a lot of weight behind them, and they take a lot longer to stop and turn around and change direction. But they get, you know, the way to hit these guys is in the pocket, because it's all finances in a totally different model to the networks. And so now that they know that, you know, a lot of their financing, their pre-sales and stuff like that is all coming from international markets. Suddenly you're seeing the biggest YouTube star in China starring in like a major film, or the Bollywood star turning up in a Fast and Furious film, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think eventually and also there's going to be a need, a desire to want to be involved in what's cool. And if the kids are making little skater movies on iPhones and you're seeing a huge diversity of people in those things, eventually the studios will catch on to that. I mean, and it is getting better. You look at like somebody like Amy Schumer. Would we have considered her to be a leading lady like 10 years ago even? But I saw Trainwreck just last week, and she was awesome. She's a fantastic actress, first off, but also she's not your typical leading lady, which gives hope to all other non-typical by the Hollywood definition leading ladies as well, or potential leading ladies, to say actually they are able to think outside of the box. And she's shown that a woman who doesn't fulfill the sort of standard criteria is perfect for leading a role, and you engage with her and her emotional journey in exactly the same way you would as women who they would have traditionally cast.
Yeah. And she made the money, right? You know what I mean? Like that was the follow-up, right? She did, the movie made money, and so thus there's hope that more movies will get made.
Yeah, it's always about what's in the pocket, because if it hadn't made money, they would have gone, oh, it was so nice having you, Amy. So, do you know what I mean? That would have been the end.
Your way.
Yeah, now go back to your little comedy club and do your ha-ha-has, but she's made money, like you say, and that's going to be the telling thing. Oh, shit, people actually like seeing this. Okay, let's experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why we need to vote with our pocketbooks.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like also like what was the recent Melissa McCarthy movie, the spy movie? How the first weekend that it beat the Entourage movie, like it was #1 at the box office. I mean, that's another like bam example of who wants to see, how many people want to see those talents in those movies in that way.
And like you were saying with the advertising, I don't know if you saw it, I don't know who it was, but there was a brand recently that stopped photoshopping their underwear models. And apparently sales went through the roof because all of a sudden their underwear models are just real women modeling bras and underwear.
Nice. Nice. Yes. Yeah, it's like, I don't know if any of you are ever studied physics, but there's this concept in physics called critical mass. And the idea is that you keep adding little bits of matter to this reaction, and you can stop it at any point. But once you have added enough volatile material, it hits this point called critical mass, and at that point, nothing can stop the explosion anymore. And I feel like we're not at critical mass yet. We have to just keep adding more volatile material to this process, so that we can reach that point of critical mass when it's like, and then the tanker will turn around.
Right.
So it's gonna keep taking work. Like we can't be complacent. We have to still get out there, and we have to make that space for other women, and we have to mentor women behind us. We have to give up this zero-sum idea that I hear about in Hollywood, where women in positions of power don't want to hire other women because it's like there's only one spot for a woman, and damn it, I'm going to take it. And it's not that at all. It's like for every woman you add, more space is added for women. So we do. There is still a lot of work to be done, but there is momentum right now, more so I think than I felt when I came here just a short 6 years ago. It feels like there is this, like the stone has started to roll. So if we can just keep pushing it so it gets up a good amount of speed, then we can, then we can really see some real lasting change in the data. That's my hope.
I mean, I came out here 16 years ago, and like when I think back to 16 years, I can't think of a single female filmmaker that I was working for, or a single female that I was auditioning for, and I have the stories. My first agent interview, he told me I was too fat to play the thin girl and too thin to play the fat girl.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, where does the girl in the middle go? And so, there's tons and tons and tons of those stories. You know, and we definitely want to share them as a learning experience. But then, okay, but then how do we change that? You know, how do we move forward? And I think that the whole critical mass analogy is perfect. You know, and sadly, there's so many other issues going on in this world, and I do think we're at critical mass with a few of those. And yeah, there's a lot of big changes that need to happen all over this great big country of ours.
Mm-hmm.
I think media has helped quite a bit. This whole YouTube thing has blown up in such a way that it has made Hollywood stop and take hold. I was surprised to learn that a lot of agencies have a section for people that just scour YouTube looking for people who have huge followings. Apparently, movie house, producer or production companies, are hiring now people who want to act. If they've got 1 million or 2 subscribers on YouTube, they're going to fly them out here and put them in a movie because that's money in the bank. Yeah. So mentality, ideology, or whatever is changing due to social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a buddy with a pilot right now that's he's trying to get off the ground, and he's in talks with Queen Latifah's company as far as the distribution part of it, and he was told he needs to find some sort of young upcoming YouTube star to play one of the leads. Like that's how it's going to get sold. Put somebody like that in there. I have another buddy who he's been working on television steadily for 40, 50 years. He has 700,000 Twitter followers, and you would think he's kind of at the point where like he probably doesn't have to audition for everything. But he flat out told me that when he goes in for a television audition, he makes sure to mention, by the way, I have 700,000 Twitter followers that are going to watch this episode if I'm on it.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. The good thing about the whole social media phenomenon is that when people put stuff up on their channels, they're usually coming from a place of authenticity. They've found a space where they're not being edited or curated by some exec. It's that old analogy of 70-year-old men getting 60-year-old men to find 50-year-old men to hire 40-year-old men to tell 30-year-old men to find 20-year-old people to entertain us. Do you know what I mean? There's none of that hierarchy.
That's hilarious.
So people are just, I can't remember who it's from, it's not mine, but so people are sort of being authentic, they're being authentically themselves, and I think that's probably part of the journey for women in Hollywood, but also like people of what is considered diversity, is being yourself. Because the one thing I learned, like when I first got here, like 2.5 years ago, and I think a lot of actors probably do this, is people just give you the advice of telling you what you're supposed to do when you get here. You're supposed to get headshots, you're supposed to get a website, you're supposed to do these things, you're supposed to have a reel. So people just go around hemorrhaging money. And so this is, or go, I'll do a website for you or whatever. And then I realized after about 6 months, and someone had said, you should do student films because you never know, and one of them will be the next Scorsese. Yeah, maybe in about 25 years time. In the meantime, I'm stuck doing his shitty little project for no money, and he doesn't know what he's doing or how to organize a piss up in a brewery. So after about 6 months of living this sort of horror show,
I'm laughing because I recognize everything you're saying.
Yeah, same here.
I'm sure many people have been through this, but then I realized, and I'm still on that journey of realizing, oh no, I've got to do me. If I'm going to do this city, I've got to do it as me, not trying to emulate what somebody else has done. And so finding out who I am, and because people resonate with authenticity, people really like people being who they really are rather than trying to fit some old archetype. So I think that's probably part of what's going to help women in Hollywood as well, is just rejecting certain negative or stereotypes that have held us back, and really presenting a broad, authentic representation of what it means to be a woman these days. I think that's really gonna be really tantalizing in the future, and that's what Amy Schumer is. I think that's what's so appealing about Trainwreck. I was nodding in recognition of all her one-night stands and all the nightmares, situations she found herself in. And I thought this is such an honest film compared to how Hollywood would have liked to have presented women maybe a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting because we're talking about younger people. I work with young people a lot, and something I heard recently, a young person say why YouTube is so popular and why they spend so much time on it. It's because they can actually search and find people that look like them, like beauty vloggers. So if they love makeup tutorials, they can put in a description of what they look like and actually find someone that looks like them that they can relate to. And that's one of the only spaces to really do that. You know, of course, there's the negative aspects of trolling and kind of the extremes of anything, but I think that's really telling, right? I mean, that's where the young people are going, is where they can find
a lot of people are going there. I am approaching 1,000 subscribers. I've got like 920 something as of today, and one I love doing. I like things that let me my inner people play, or whatever you call it. I craft for calm. I soap for sanity. When people, you know, that whole thing, when you get done with an audition, put it behind you. Well, before I even walk out the door of that audition that I'm done, I'm thinking about what soap I want to make tonight, or what I'm going to recycle up in from, like, this bag right here used to be a pair of jeans, and I cut them up and I made bags. I put zippers, and, you know, I'm thinking about stuff like that. If I get called back, that's cool. I'll be on it for that. But then my downtime is my time and not meant to be paid to those people whom I just auditioned for. I like trying to help people save a little money, like, you know, coming up with an idea for this or that. I came up with a way to cut soap, a log of soap, once you make it, so that you're not cutting bar after bar, because people don't want to do that with a knife. I made up this wooden box with a galvanized string to cut a whole loaf. I've had like 22,000 people look at that video now. So I'm realizing, I don't know who's watching, but people are watching, and that's where I'm home. You can watch me make soap in a crock pot, hot process. I think I even have a video on there, a little video tastefully done by myself of me showering with my own soap in the shower. And it's very
nice.
Yeah, it's very short too, because I had to do a couple of takes, because at the time I was into coffee enemas, so I had that bag in there. And I would go look at the video, right? And I'm like, the enema bag is in there. But I finally got one. I finally got one where it was just.
I love it.
It's on my YouTube, so I'm always doing stupid stuff like that.
Yeah. But you're segueing into the next part, which is to pitch what we're doing, what we're working on. So keep going. Tell us a little more about what you're working on, and then we'll transition.
I am working on, I like teaching. I like teaching my workshops. I teach people. I travel a lot, so I had to come up with something where I didn't have to carry a purse, because if you've ever been through TSA and seen people leave stuff, and then you go back for it, you get to the plane and you go, oh, where's my iPhone? It's back at TSA, and TSA go, we didn't see no iPhone, right? So I came up with this, I call it the dangler, this bag right here, and my phone fits in here where I can see it and work and talk on it, and when I got greasy chicken fingers and all like that, it doesn't bother it, because I'm doing it through here, right? Look at that. So yeah, and it dangles when I go to the bathroom, right? So I'm on the phone, this is in my lap, and I'm doing my business, and I'm just, yeah, you know what I mean? But my stuff is safe. Your stuff is safe, and I teach people how to make your own dangler so you don't lose your crap.
I love it. That's on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's going to be on there. I teach workshops, but I also teach workshops on soap making. I teach kids how to make soap. I teach adult soap parties. I don't go to the part where they go and take them in the bathroom and try them out and stuff like that, but I teach them how to make them, and I just love teaching, you know, you can make it before you go to buy it. See if you can't re-up something and make it into something new. They did that in Little House on the Prairie days. Why? We need to come back to that. It's too many people on earth can find new stuff.
Very cool. Very cool.
Andy, what do you got? What are you pitching? Pitch something.
Okay. What have I got? I'm on Periscope a lot. I'm loving Periscope. So I have really interesting conversations with people about, you know, just what's going, like we just had a conversation about this Cecil the Lion thing. So, just an interesting discussion. And actually, even though people can't verbally respond, you know, with the comments and stuff, you do get a dialogue going. So I don't feel like a crazy lady shouting at my phone. And and then obviously I'm doing gigs around town. I'm still doing stand-up, so I'm going to be at Flappers, I think, tomorrow night, and then I'm going to be at Comedy Palace in a couple of weeks' time. It's all on my website anyway, andyosho.com. So yeah, if people want to come see me do some stand-up in Hollywood, then yeah, just check out the website.
Nice. How about you, Leah?
You know, I've got a lot of projects that are in post right now. So feature film Nowhereland, look for that. It's nowherelandmovie.com. We're wrapping that up. We're going to be submitting that to Sundance. Another short that I'm associate producer on called Similitude is going to be premiering at Holly Shorts in Hollywood next month. I'm speaking on a couple panels at Holly Shorts also, I believe on the 8th and the 15th of August, but I'm not totally sure on that, so check that out. And then I'm going to be gearing up for production on a horror film that I'm starring in Florida in the fall called Sorority the Damned. And then the project that I mentioned to you guys earlier, I mean, I've just really signed on to do this, but you know, it's going to be about a year out, but it's called The Gettysburg Ghost, and it's a romance love story set in present day as well as Civil War time, and so that's going to be a super big project. And Remember the Sultana, if you check out rememberthesultana.com, it's a documentary that I'm producing with Sean Astin, Jim Michaels, Mark Marshall, a bunch of, I'm the only female on the team, and I'm the only female voice on the project as well. That's what happens when you're the producer. But it's an amazing story called Remember the Sultana, and the Sultana is the largest U.S. maritime disaster in history that no one's ever heard of.
Wow.
More people died on this boat than on the Titanic, and it was yeah, dudes. It was the Northern soldiers. They were at prisoner of war camps down in the South during the Civil War. I didn't even realize we had like prisoner of war camps, but yeah, so apparently we were holding our own people, you know, in war camps, these horrible war camps down in South Carolina and Georgia. And the war was over, so they were marching home. They were marching home to be with their families, and the Army was paying $5 a head to the steamboats that would put some of the soldiers on the boat, $10 a head for officers. And so this one particular steamboat called the Sultana, its capacity was 400 people. They put 2,000 soldiers on the boat.
Wow, and it sunk. It didn't even...
It blew up. It blew up on the Mississippi. The boiler blew up, and the majority of the people burned, and the other ones drowned in the Mississippi River.
Wow.
Over 1,800 of those 2,000 perished, and and no one's ever heard of this. It was just a day or two after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, so it was just kind of pushed under the rug. It was covered up. Our filmmakers who had been working on this project for 13 years, I mean, they've interviewed all kinds of descendants and whatnot, and we just did a screening, our first private screening in Memphis in April, since that's, you know, where it took place. And I did the Q&A afterwards, and I asked, you know, if you are a descendant, could you please stand up? And about 100 people stood up in the audience.
Wow.
And so it's, you know, we're hoping, you know, we're in talks with distribution right now. We're hoping it gets a limited theatrical release, and you know, then it ends up on the History Channel or A&E or somewhere, and then ends up in our history books. Because these soldiers that died, they were just regular men and women. So they didn't make the news. They didn't make the news at all. They were going home. They had just fought the war, and so got a lot of projects going on, but it's projects like that are, thank you, it's projects like that are really like calling to me, like, you know, something that makes a difference. I've got one more, The Grid Zombie Outlet Mall. It's an animated feature film that is also in post, and we're in talks with, like, you know, some sort of online distribution. And so that's fun, and I love doing voiceover. I love doing funny things, but projects like the Sultana are the projects that are calling to me, like, let's make a difference in this world, ladies, right?
Yeah. You're an inspiration, all of you.
You guys, I forgot to say, I have a movie. I don't know when it's coming out. It's called The Veil, and it stars Thomas Jane and Jessica Alba, and my scenes and dialogue were with Thomas Jane. I thought it was a Christian movie. It turned out to be a horror movie after my part. Because the director didn't give you the whole script. He only gave you your parts, right?
Yeah.
So, it's called The Veil, or Heaven's Veil. So yes, I do have something to promote. Yeah, I forgot. I'm old. I'm the oldest one on this panel. I forget stuff all the time. I got 2 cells, and they fighting for me all the time. Next.
I love it. Dawn, what are you working on?
I am about to do this weekend the encore performances of 50 Shades of Shrew. We got one of the encore producers award from the Lounge Theater for the show. So they are having us come in and do 2 encore performances, August 1st and 2nd. So I get to trot Petruchio out 2 more times before I put him in.
Where?
At the Lounge Theater.
And where is that?
That's in Hollywood. It's
I'll find.
Santa Monica and El Centro.
I will get out my best smoking jacket. Thank you.
Awesome.
I don't smoke, but
It's an all-female Shakespeare production, which I love doing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's
so we're doing that. I'm hoping to be presenting a panel, leading a panel up at Geek Girl Con in October, which I went to a couple of years ago and had an amazing time. It's a great con up in Seattle. And then gearing up, projects. Always, got several balls in the air, and eventually, hopefully, something will actually manifest. But working on a couple of fan films, foraying into fan film territory. I've got a Supernatural one that's in process and a Battlestar Galactica one that's in process. So in pre-production for both of those. So hopefully those will happen next summer.
Cool.
Yeah, how about you, Ms. Danny?
Well, Knife and Fork has brought back our dinner and discussion series, which we are calling Off Menu, and we're actually reading plays off the Kilroy list, which is the list of female playwrights, unproduced plays by female playwrights that aren't getting produced, so they made a list. We're going through the list and having dinner with a bunch of people, reading them, discussing them, and then hoping that someone in the room will maybe want to produce it, or help get it produced, or at least just hear it and talk about it and appreciate it, because it's an amazing list. Doing that, and then we kind of proposed this wild project to a festival that in our proposal we're like, and we would need about 75 women, and they were like, yes, please do it. So now we're having to gather about 75 women that can be in a piece in January. That's about restriction and constriction, using like Spanx and controlled hot pantyhose as like a storytelling device.
Okay.
And there'll be music and there'll be movement.
Okay, wait. This is in Chicago, right?
It is. It's in Chicago, but maybe we could bring it to LA.
Well, yeah, they're warmer there.
You guys help me get 75 women together, and we'll come do it there too.
You don't want somebody Spanx chipping off in the cold, do you?
No, but we'll be in a theater. Don't worry.
Okay, makes me nervous a little bit because I've had Spanx on.
Well, it's about taking them off, right? It's the freedom.
But they see it wouldn't come off with that much cold. Mama gotta say, you'll be directing me, take those Spanx off.
You're like, I can't get them off. I can't.
Frozen on. You're actually making me think about that, and I hadn't thought of that. It's gonna be cold.
They're frozen on my hootenanny.
I love it. You guys were over time, but it doesn't matter because we're having such a great time. Conversation.
Absolutely.
So great. Dawn, any final thoughts before we go?
Wow, it's been an amazing year, and I cannot believe all of the incredible women that I have had the huge pleasure of being able to talk to over the interwebs during this journey. I've learned so much about so many different areas about women, food, and body politics that I didn't know before. I've gotten a chance to hear some amazing first-person stories, and that we made it through a year of this, and we're able to share all of this wonderfulness with the world.
Yeah.
So
talk about the transformation of our society in a year. I mean, really, even we've been doing this within the year, there's been a lot of transformation and evolution in women and food and body politics. So,
and clearly it was because of us.
Clearly.
Welcome, world.
Can everybody do this like we're doing a group hug? Everybody go like this. We're gonna. Internet. That look at that. We're hugging.
Awesome.
Andy's giving us kisses.
Women in the ring. That's us. Woo!
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well,
Well, thank you so much,
See you all
ladies.
soon.
Huh?
And any final thoughts before we go? Just hello and goodbye, and you're welcome.
Hello and goodbye, and thank you, and let's keep working to make
what
change
you're
in the
doing.
world.
Yeah.
Keep it up, ladies.
And let's follow each other and Instagram.
I just followed everybody on Twitter when we were starting. I was like,
I love it.
follow.
Oh, let me see that.
I'm
Let me see that.
not as young as you, Missy. I'll have to go and get my manual out, but I'll be following people. You too,
I'm on
OC.
Periscope too. I don't use Periscope like Andy does, but I'm gonna start following.
Yeah, I'm
her.
gonna check it out
You know
now.
what?
Andy's
I-
doing it. We know it's cool.
I
Yeah.
downloaded Periscope, but I'm afraid because I would be doing it in my pajamas in bed. I don't need nobody seeing all that.
Yeah, you would. I don't think you should get on the Periscope. You're gonna take it into the bathroom with you and stuff.
Well, that's a good point.
I'm like, look what's dangling now. No.
My friend sent me a Facebook message the other day. He said, "Yeah, I'm really loving your periscopes, but do you really think you should be doing it from your bed?" And I was like, "What? When?" He's like, "Yeah, you were in bed the other day." So I must have just flicked on it like accidentally. And so I was like, so now I have a piece of tape over the top of my iPad, so I don't accidentally like Periscope from my bed.
Very cool. Here I was thinking, oh, that's
This is an education.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch you, Andy. I'm gonna watch you. I'm gonna watch all of y'all. I'm gonna try to come see you at the lounge. And you we're okay.
No,
You're
we're
the
still
only-
going live. So let's say
Oh,
goodbye to the world, and then we'll continue to chat.
bye,
Okay,
world.
cool. Bye, world.
Chicago and
Bye.
LA.
Have to leave. Have to leave.
Take live. Goodbye.
Your boy.